to check out what is happening from the world of business news. Okay, let's start off from the Uganda Revenue Authority has handed over the registration and licensing of all vehicles in Uganda to the Ministry of Works and Transport. This follows a 2019 government decision that the Uganda Revenue Authority needs to concentrate on its core mandate of revenue collection. During the handover, the Minister of Works and Transport, General Katumba Wamala, says it is a smooth transfer of functions, adding that Uganda Revenue Authority will focus on only tax collection, saying that it was overburdened. More of the details.
Function in the history of URA and
the Uganda Revenue Authority has handed over the registration and licensing of all vehicles in Uganda to the Minister of Works and Transport. In a notice issued by Uganda Revenue Authority, indicated that effective November 3rd, 2021, the mandate to register and license motor vehicles in Uganda will be a responsibility of the Minister of Works and Transport. Uganda Revenue Authority will remain responsible for motor vehicle customs clearance and first-time registration. During the handover, the Minister of Works and Transport, General Katumba Wamala, says it is a smooth transfer of functions, adding that the Uganda Revenue Authority will focus on only tax collection, saying it was overburdened.
URA was overburdened. For them, all they need is to know how much tax is coming in. They were not responsible for tracking the vehicle, where has this one gone, who has transferred which vehicle to. That should not be their role. So it's in the right direction that we move, this aspect is moved into the ministry, which is responsible. Because the system which was being used by URA is more tax-oriented. It doesn't look into critical aspects like roadworthiness. It doesn't look into the complete cycle of the life of the vehicles, as you have heard Commissioner General here saying. We need to track this vehicle from the date it enters this country to the time it gets off the road. We should be able to do that. But now I don't know how many vehicles get off the road and where those number plates, where do they end up? You go to some of the places like Katwe and Dubois and you see those carcass of vehicles heaped one over the other. And you ask yourself, what happened to the number plate? Where did it go? Where is it secured? So all this now, we want to ensure that we have a proper follow-through of the vehicle as once on its lifetime, so long as it's within the country.
Consequently, the Minister of Works and Transport requested for 50 billion to be able to establish a new motor vehicle registration system. The new system will see the allocation of unique identification numbers to particular motor vehicles.
We must ensure that this is a seamless transfer of responsibilities and functions. The end user, who is the public, the owners of the vehicles, the importers of the vehicles, and all those involved should not be inconvenienced by this transfer of functions.
The motor vehicle registration and licensing function has been under the Internal Revenue Department, today known as the Domestic Taxes Department, and has been specifically carried out by the Headquarter Service Office. This function has over the years undergone several improvements, starting with the development of a motor vehicle information system known as MOVIS in 1998, which dealt with the lengthy and manual process of motor vehicle registration. And in 2014, there were further process improvements.
Speaking at the handover ceremony, the Uganda Revenue Authority Commissioner General John Musinguzi Rijoki said that the transfer of motor vehicle administration to the Minister of Works is intended to improve service delivery to the public. Musinguzi said that the motor vehicle licensing will improve further through the joint development and implementation of integration capabilities of the various systems, including the interface between motor vehicle records archiving system, e-taxi system, and the automated licensing systems.
A component of this handover is the motor vehicle registry, which supports the implementation of harmonized processes and will ensure increased efficiency. To the Honorable Minister of Works and Transport and all the colleagues from the Ministry, I wish to congratulate you upon attaining this milestone and sincerely appreciate you for the great partnership that we have had. Your contribution as a strategic partner in the transport sector is praiseworthy.
During the transition, Uganda Revenue Authority will continue to offer technical support to the Minister of Works and Transport and jointly continue to update the public on every available information.
Upon a successful handover.
Mumbere. Reports say that the Uganda Revenue Authority is in the interim will remain responsible for motor vehicle customs clearance for the first time of registration. And the bigger worry here again is if you're to look at we've seen in 2021 this year when the government did introduce that we're going to have tracking devices in various vehicles which are going to be paid for. So, and the new system is actually going to see the allocation of unique identification number to a particular motor vehicle. And according to the Ministry of Work, in a notice that was issued by URA indicates that effective November 3rd, which was Wednesday, the mandate to register and license motor vehicles in Uganda will be a responsibility for the Ministry of Works and Transport, and URA will only be responsible for the motor vehicle customs clearance and the first-time registration, like now when the car is actually coming through. That is, if you're importing it from abroad, let's say you're actually dealing in a car bond and you have one. You have to actually, this is where URA is going to clear, and also registration for starters. Then the other registration is going to be undertaken by the Ministry of Works and Transport that is the registration of the licensing of all vehicles in Uganda. So with the same situation, you can now see that the registration and licensing of all vehicles is now going to be in the hands of the Ministry of Works and Transport, laying off some work from the Uganda Revenue Authority. And the Ministry of Works and Transport did say that a smooth transfer of functions will happen, adding that Uganda is going to actually focus on, that is the Uganda Revenue Authority, is going to focus more on the tax collection. Now the tax collection first in terms of the vehicles, which also focuses on making sure that when a vehicle is actually coming through the country, they're going to tax that. And then the first registration that this vehicle is into the country, that is where URA is going to stop. Then the licensing of the licensing of the vehicle, the licensing of the driver is going back to the Ministry of Works and Transport. And still also remember, there is also that drive of saying that vehicles in Uganda are getting these, what we call, they're actually going to be getting, away from the licenses, I'm actually, what is actually getting out of my mind, which is actually more of a tracking system, exactly, almost forgot that. That is supposed to be paid for by the owner of the vehicle, so that the government, according to what the government said in a statement when they were actually introducing the tracking system, is that it is going to curb the situation of crime in Uganda, where they're going to be using it as a route to actually trace in case of anything that happens and a vehicle is actually being used to commit crime. So if at all they use these tracking devices to track down the assailants or these criminals. So that is why it is actually going to be used for security purposes mainly, and also maybe safeguarding one's property, one's vehicle. And away from that, let's move it on to the next story. Uganda, through the Uganda Registration Service Bureau, will host the 16th Corporate Registers Forum Conference from 9th to the 11th of November 2021. Due to the challenges brought about by COVID-19 and in adherence to the standard operating procedures from the Ministry of Health, and the conference will be a virtual one in nature, with participants attending and following proceedings online. While addressing the media at the Uganda Media Center, Mercy Kainowisho, Registrar General, Uganda Registration Service Bureau, applauded the government of Uganda for the continued support and commitment in attracting international conferences of this nature, because they provide an opportunity to showcase what the country's capabilities are to the rest of the world, and more so, those of the Uganda Registration Service Bureau. More of the details. Under the theme Ease Doing Business, the role of corporate registries, the conference will bring together government agencies and their officials responsible for the administration of body corporate registers, for example, register of companies. The conference will also feature several panel discussions and presentations covering topics such as how blockchain and artificial intelligence can help registries support businesses, challenges faced by corporate registries in supporting economic recovery in a post-COVID-19 environment, among others. While addressing the media at the Uganda Media Center, Mercy Kainowisho, Registrar General, Uganda Registration Service Bureau, thanked the government of Uganda for the continued support and commitment in attracting international conferences of this nature because they provide an opportunity to showcase the country's capabilities to the rest of the world.
I'd like to take this opportunity to again thank the government of Uganda for allowing this conference to take place in Uganda. I would like to again thank the Ministry of Justice, the Attorney General's chambers that have and continue to support us. I'd like to thank you, our partners, the media, the ministries and departments of and agencies of government that continue to support us in as far as promoting what the good that Uganda is doing. I want to call upon you as the media to take interest in this conference. You can avail, you can get this data via the website on www.corporateregistersforum.org, which details are also on our website. And so we are here to see that we have mass mobilization of this attendance, but also our registration of our services.
She said that the Uganda Registration Service Bureau hosts this business, legal documents and company register, adding that as a government agency, they will make use of the conference to sufficiently showcase our capacity in managing the stated registries as well as highlighting Uganda's potential to the rest of the world.
And so as we host this Corporate Registers Forum, Uganda is honored to take this opportunity to showcase the achievements that have been made in as far as registering businesses are concerned. We know that Ugandans have not yet adapted to the formalization of their businesses, and not many businesses are registered. To mention that we have a register of less than 1 million registered businesses in Uganda. Specifically, that is around 800,000 registered businesses in Uganda. And we want to use this opportunity to call upon Ugandans to register their businesses as we host this international conference. The theme for this conference is the ease of doing business, the role of corporate registers. And because of the COVID-19 pandemic restrictions, this is the first ever virtually hosted conference. And I think in Africa, it is 3 countries or 2 countries that have so far hosted this conference. South Africa, Botswana, and Uganda will be the 3rd country, and we are hosting it virtually. We shall have many experts showcasing what it entails to register businesses, business rescue, issues that relate to intellectual property.
Pleasure for Uganda to be hosting the first virtual conference of 2021. Given the times that we are operating in, and indeed it's a new innovation that we shall have more than 300 people attending this conference who have registered so far, and we shall be indeed having participation globally, and we are looking forward to sharing ideas on how to improve our register, but also benchmarking from different continents on how they have been able to sustain service provision to their clients, and how we can definitely do it better at Uganda Registration Services Bureau.
The forum first met in Auckland in 2003 and was hosted by the New Zealand Companies Office. The 2003 meeting was an opportunity for corporate registries from 13 jurisdictions to meet and has since grown to 68 jurisdictions worldwide. The initial name given to this group was the Asia Pacific Corporate Registries Forum. Uganda is the 3rd African country to host the CRF conferences after South Africa in 2009 and Botswana in 2018. Okay, away from that, the Uganda Registration Service Bureau says that this conference is going to be an opportunity for them to showcase the capabilities they have as for Uganda as a nation, for Uganda Registration Service Bureau to showcase as an organization, as a government organization, and also to look at how other registries are actually carrying out their work in away from that. Still with that, according to Kainowisho, the Uganda Registration Service Bureau will host the business, legal documents and company register, adding that as a government agency, they will make use of the conference to sufficiently showcase their capacity, like I did mention, with in managing the stated registries as well as highlighting Uganda's potentials to the rest of the world. Let's check out what is happening from the world of the international scene. We'll start off from Kenya, as Kenya looks set to benefit after the US suspended duty-free access to the Ethiopian exports following ongoing unrest in the country's Tigray region. Let's have more of this story.
The U.S. move to ban Ethiopia opens a window for Kenyan textile and apparel firms to increase their exports to the U.S. market of more than 6,000 product lines as U.S. restrictions hit their Ethiopian rivals. Kenya's total exports to the U.S. under the AGOA plan peaked at $46 billion in 2019 before declining 8% to $42.2 billion in 2020. According to the Economic Survey data, on the other hand, Ethiopia exported about $26.3 billion worth of goods duty-free to the U.S. under AGOA last year, U.S. Commerce Department data shows. More than 90% of the Ethiopian exports were textiles and apparel, signaling the huge opportunity for Kenyan textile exporters. Kenyan officials yesterday remained mum on the implications of the U.S. ban when sought for comment by Business Daily. AGOA grants 40 African states, including Ethiopia and Kenya, quota and duty-free access to the U.S. market of more than 6,000 product lines. Over the past decade, Ethiopia and Kenya have spent billions constructing a dozen of industrial parks and related infrastructure in race for the U.S. export market. Kenya and the U.S. formally launched negotiations for bilateral trade agreement last year that the two economies hope could serve as a model for additional agreements across the African continent. The deal would replace AGOA, which expires in 2025. The Tigrayan war is threatening the stability of Ethiopia, Africa's second most populous country, seen by Kenyan major companies as a promising frontier for investment. The conflict has kept investors on edge even as it triggered a hunger crisis, leaving millions of people in need of humanitarian aid. It intensified Tuesday after Ethiopia's Council of Ministers declared a nationwide state of emergency, effective immediately, according to the state media. Earlier in the day, authorities in Addis Ababa told residents to register their weapons in 2 days and prepare to defend the city. An executive order signed last month by U.S. President Joe Biden seeks to slap harsh sanctions on the sides involved in the war in the Tigray region, including the governments of Ethiopia and Eritrea.
The Tigrayan war is threatening the stability of Ethiopia, where Africa is Africa's second most populous country, seen by Kenyan major companies as a promising frontier of investment. The conflict has kept investors on edge, even it has actually triggered a hunger crisis, leaving millions of people in need of humanitarian aid. It actually intensified this week on Tuesday after Ethiopia's Council of Ministers declared a nationwide state of emergency, effective immediately. According to state media, early in the day, authorities in Addis Ababa, the capital, told residents to register their weapons in the next 2 days and prepare to defend the city. Oh, that's quite scary and worrying. Imagine Kampala City Council Authority telling us to register weapons and defend our city. I don't know. I think most of us will have to travel to Kisoro and check out what is happening from there. Okay, still with that, let's move on to the next one. We head to the Middle East as the Taliban government bans foreign currencies in Afghanistan. The Taliban government banned the use of foreign currencies in Afghanistan, a move that could further disrupt an economy on the brink of collapse. More of this story.
The economy is struggling due to the withdrawal of the international support after the Taliban took control. The US dollar has been used widely in Afghanistan markets. Dollars are also often used to trade in areas bordering Afghanistan's neighbors such as Pakistan. The Islamic Emirate instructed all citizens, shopkeepers, traders, businessmen and general public to henceforth conduct all transactions in Afghanese and strictly refrain from using foreign currency. After the Taliban government seized control of the country in August, billions of dollars of Afghanistan's overseas assets were frozen by the U.S. Federal Reserve Bank and central banks in Europe. The Taliban has called for the release of Afghanistan's assets that are being held overseas as the nation faces severe cash crunch. Afghanistan has also been hit by the exodus of the foreign aid. Grants from overseas previously financed 3/4 of its public spending. Earlier this year, the International Monetary Fund said Afghanistan will no longer be able to access its resources, while the World Bank also halted funding their projects in the country. Last month, the IMF warned that the country's economy could shrink by 30% this year, pushing millions into poverty and causing a humanitarian crisis.
Away from the Taliban government and what is happening from the crisis. Ever since the Taliban actually took over power in Afghanistan, in terms of inflation rose, the economy started struggling greatly, and there was a crisis in a time that most of the people are actually facing a very huge challenge with even getting food. And international fund groups have also decided to shun away from helping the people of Afghanistan, as well as others running as refugees to various countries. So you could definitely see the crisis that is still happening in Afghanistan. Earlier this year, the International Monetary Fund said Afghanistan will no longer be able to access its resources, while the World Bank also halted funding for projects in the country. Last month, the International Monetary Fund warned that the country's economy could shrink by 30% this year, by the end of this year, pushing millions into poverty and causing a humanitarian crisis. And millions are already living below the poverty line in Afghanistan following the Taliban's takeover mid this year. Away from that, that brings us to the end of our news hour. I'll be back with the topical analysis. Keep it smart 24.